And I think modern anti-racist philosophy is a pseudo-religious cult that creates a false victimhood narrative, renders us powerless so that activists like you can save us and feel good about themselves. Not you, you're racist! Shut up! Oh, so you only listen to people of colour that say exactly what you want them to say. I'm doing this for your benefit. I'm protecting you. Hey, have you ever had an emotionally abusive boyfriend? Yes? He would get angry every time I said or did something he didn't like. He made me feel completely worthless, and he justified his behaviour by saying he loved me and was trying to protect me, but it was all just for his validation. And the really sad thing about emotional abusers is that consciously they really feel like they're showing love and being protective, but they're actually just seeking to control the other person or people of colour.
Things happening, and you see brilliant people making arguments that don't make any sense and utterly despising those who disagree with them as if they were heretics, word chosen deliberately. It's because what we're seeing, even though these are people who are usually very secular in their self-conception, it's a religion. This is exactly the kind of person who sent Galileo into exile a very, very long time ago. And the people back then often didn't think of themselves as religious. It was just considered truth. We're faced with that same kind of thought, even if the word isn't applied.
Does it say that in the bill? Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill, because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on. It says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who? For grades pre-K through 3. So 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And the idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. And so we disabuse you of those narratives. And we're going to make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
Does not want you to see.
Have you actually seen this right now, what's going on in Twitter? What a coincidence, eh? Hundreds and hundreds of people are tweeting the exact same thing. Or is something else going on? You know, it kind of looks to me that these are bot accounts. Fake accounts designed to tweet the exact same things all over the world. Things about masks and social distancing and stuff like that. Maybe to kind of sway the opinions of the masses. I mean, it's a classic Edward Bernays manipulation tactic. You know, people actually form their beliefs and their thoughts based on what they read, whether that's a new article posted on the top ranks of Google or trending tweets that they see over and over again. And it seems like this tweet that is being posted by thousands of bot accounts around the world is trying to get people to conform to the idea of extending mask mandates and things like that. You know, I'm not making any conclusions and I'm not throwing any accusations out there, but it's pretty easy to see.
Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to shit, okay? It's true. It's true. Look at what's happening.
Virus, and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
So you're working on some of those problems, but the problem of wokeness specifically, you mentioned that's like a mind virus and it's destructive. And why do you think wokeness is so destructive?
I'm interested in your opinions too, but you know, like, I mean, generally, I think we should be aiming for like a positive society, and you know, that it should be okay to, you know, be humorous, like, you know, like we should like wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal, which is not cool.
We've experienced a little bit of that.
I mean, Chappelle, like trying to shut down Chappelle, come on, man, that's crazy. At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a reason. It gives them a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue.
It either hasn't read or has read and knows that it's just not telling the truth about. The Florida legislation is to stop teachers or other employees of schools from teaching and educating kids on transgenderism, gender identity, and sexual orientation until they're 8. That's right. 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds cannot be indoctrinated about gender identity and sexual orientation. And guess what? 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds don't care about these things. It's the adults trying to push it on them. So the woke CEO at Disney decides he'll lie about it, saying that it's an attack on gay and lesbian and trans and whatever an I family is. It's an attack on them somehow by simply saying, teach the kid vocabulary. Teach the kid addition and subtraction. Why is this so hard to understand? Come on, man.
A social justice organization brought me into contact with a fair amount of people like that. And it taught me that there is a certain type of person who makes like fighting racism sort of a part of their identity. And the problem with that is, as noble as it sounds, the problem with that is if, the existence of a problem is part of a person's identity, they become very threatened by the idea of like that problem being resolved. And they may even engage in like sabotage behaviors, which frankly, I think a lot of this woke ideology is a sabotage effort. And I mean, that's why you see some of these people kind of desperately trying to expand the definition of racism so that like there's always going to be a sufficient amount of it that they can like continue wallowing in their like
central commitment, which instead of being to assert your faith in Jesus, is to assert that you know what racism is, to assert that you know that racism still exists after the 1960s. That's the central tenet. And the idea is that as long as you're showing that you know racism exists, then whether or not you're actually helping people who are of a race is less relevant. And to the extent that anybody questions you on this, you say that it's complicated and look over their shoulder. And then there's also, just think about white privilege and original sin. The parallel between the way those two things are processed or supposed to be processed is almost eerie. White privilege is thought of not just as a fact, but as something that a white person who is ahead of the curve is supposed to eternally reflect about, feel guilty about, and assume that they will never be free of until they're dead. And finally, there's the intolerance, the degree of intolerance. So especially lately, especially over the past couple years, although this has been long in coming, there's an idea that with a certain kind of person, a certain kind of hyper woke person, there's a prosecutorial quality. If you don't agree with them, it's not that you get yelled at a little. That's one thing. It's that you are fired. You are stripped of your honors in some way. You are not supposed to be within polite society. You have to be pushed out a window. That prosecutorial aspect of things, where people who are in disagreement are treated as if they almost smell bad, what that is, even though we don't use the word, is that people like that are being treated as heretics.